Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are sitting in a car, but not in the left seat, not in the right seat, in the center. The steering wheel is directly in front of you. The road is perfectly aligned with your body. To your left, a passenger. To your right, another passenger. You are the pilot. They are along for the ride. You are in the McLaren F1. Now imagine the engine. It is behind you, not in the front, not in the middle, behind you, under a gold-lined cover. It is a V12. It is 6.1 liters. It produces 627 horsepower. It revs to 7,500 RPM. The sound is not a scream. It is a roar. It is a symphony. It is the sound of perfection. Now imagine the speed. You press the throttle. The car accelerates, not violently, not abruptly, seamlessly, effortlessly. It pulls and pulls and pulls. There is no limit. There is no end. 60 miles per hour comes in 3.2 seconds, 100 in 6.3 seconds, 200 in 28 seconds. The car does not stop. It does not tire. It only goes faster. This is the McLaren F1. It is not just a car. It is the car, the greatest car ever built, the perfect hypercar. For over a decade, it was the fastest production car in the world. It still holds the record for the highest top speed of any naturally aspirated production car. It is the only car ever to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans in its first year of competition. It is the benchmark against which all hypercars are measured. Over the course of this episode, we are going to tell the complete story of the McLaren F1, from the mind of Gordon Murray, the genius engineer who dreamed of the perfect car, to the boardroom at McLaren where the project was almost killed, to the racetracks of Le Mans where the F1 proved its dominance, to the auction houses of Monterey where F1s now sell for over $20 million. This is not just a story about a car. It is a story about obsession, about perfection, about the relentless pursuit of an impossible dream. It is the story of the McLaren F1. Let us begin. Let us go back to the late 1980s, to the mind of a genius. Part 1. The Visionary. Gordon Murray is one of the greatest automotive engineers in history. He was born in South Africa in 1946. He grew up building cars in his backyard. He studied engineering. He moved to England. He joined the Brabham Formula One team. He designed race cars that won championships. He was brilliant, obsessive, and demanding. In 1987, Murray moved to McLaren. He joined the McLaren Formula One team led by Ron Dennis. Murray designed the McLaren MP4/4, which dominated the 1988 Formula One season. Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost won 15 of 16 races. The car was perfect. Murray was at the peak of his powers. But Murray was restless. He wanted to build a road car, not just any road car, the perfect road car. He had been thinking about it for years. He had sketches, he had ideas, he had a vision. Murray's vision was simple, a car that was lightweight, powerful, and driver-focused, a car with 3 seats and a center driving position, a car with a naturally aspirated engine, a manual transmission, and no electronic driver aids, a car that was pure, raw, and perfect. Murray wrote his ideas on a piece of paper. He called it the McLaren F1 brief. The brief was impossible. The car had to weigh no more than 1,000 kilograms. It had to have at least 550 horsepower. It had to be faster than anything else on the road. It had to be comfortable enough for long journeys. It had to be reliable enough for daily use. It had to be beautiful. It had to be perfect. Murray took the brief to Ron Dennis, the chairman of McLaren. Dennis was skeptical. McLaren was a racing team. They did not build road cars. The M6 GT was a one-off. It never reached production. The McLaren F1 would be the first true road car from the brand. Part 2. The Backstory. To understand the McLaren F1, you have to understand McLaren racing. McLaren was founded in 1963 by Bruce McLaren, a New Zealander driver and engineer. The team won its first Formula One race in 1968. It won its first championship in 1974. By the late 1980s, McLaren was the dominant force in Formula One. But McLaren had never built a production road car. The M6 GT was a one-off. It never reached production. The McLaren F1 would be the first true road car from the brand. The project was codenamed Project One. Murray assembled a small team of engineers. They worked in a separate building, away from the Formula One operations. They had a small budget. They had a tight timeline. They had impossible goals. The team started with the chassis. Murray wanted a carbon fiber monocoque. Carbon fiber was used in Formula One, but never in a production road car. It was expensive, difficult to manufacture, and untested for road use. But it was also light, strong, and stiff. Murray insisted. The F1 would have a carbon fiber chassis. The team developed a carbon fiber tub that weighed just 100 kilograms. It was strong enough to withstand a crash. It was stiff enough to provide excellent handling. It was the foundation of the car. Next, the team worked on the suspension. Murray wanted double wishbones all around, with pushrod actuated dampers. This was Formula One technology adapted for the road. The suspension was light, compact, and adjustable. The team worked on the brakes. Murray wanted ventilated carbon ceramic discs, but the technology was not ready. He settled for steel discs with 4-piston calipers. They were powerful and fade-resistant. The team worked on the aerodynamics. Murray did not want a rear wing. He believed that a wing was a compromise. He designed the body to generate downforce without a wing. The shape was clean, smooth, and efficient. The team worked on the interior. Murray wanted 3 seats with the driver in the center. The passenger seats were set back slightly, giving the driver a commanding view. The interior was minimalist, with no unnecessary controls. The focus was on driving. The team worked for 2 years. They faced problems. The engine was a major challenge. The F1 needed a powerful, lightweight, reliable engine. No one made an engine that met Murray's specifications. He had to find a partner. Part 3. The Impossible Brief. Let us look more closely at Gordon Murray's brief for the McLaren F1. It was a document that would define the project. It was impossible. It was insane. It was brilliant. The brief had 6 key requirements. First, the car had to have a central driving position. Murray believed that the driver should be in the center of the car for the best visibility, balance, and control. He had been inspired by the Ferrari 365P, a 3-seat concept car from the 1960s. He wanted to take that idea to production. Second, the car had to have 3 seats. Murray wanted the F1 to be usable for 3 people. He wanted to share the experience of driving with passengers. The 2 passenger seats were set back slightly, giving the driver a commanding view. Third, the car had to weigh no more than 1,000 kilograms. Murray believed that weight was the enemy of performance. He wanted the F1 to be lighter than any competitor. He achieved this through the carbon fiber chassis, the lightweight engine, and the minimalist interior. Fourth, the car had to have a naturally aspirated engine. Murray did not want turbochargers. He believed that turbos added complexity, weight, and lag. He wanted a pure, responsive, naturally aspirated engine. Fifth, the car had to have a manual transmission. Murray did not want an automatic or a dual clutch. He believed that the driver should be engaged. He wanted a gated shifter, a clutch pedal, and 3 pedals. And sixth, the car had to be the fastest production car in the world. Murray wanted the top speed to exceed 350 kilometers per hour. He wanted the F1 to be the benchmark. These requirements were extreme.
No car had ever met them, but Murray was determined. He believed that perfection was possible.
Part 4. The Engine Quest. The engine was the most critical component. The McLaren F1 needed a powerful, lightweight, reliable V12. Murray approached several manufacturers. First, he approached Honda. Honda had a successful partnership with Honda in Formula One. Honda made excellent engines, but Honda was not interested. They were focused on their own projects. Second, he approached Lamborghini. Lamborghini made a brilliant V12. The engine in the Countach and the Diablo was powerful and characterful. Murray was interested, but the deal fell through. Lamborghini was going through financial difficulties. They could not commit to the project. Third, he approached BMW. BMW had a motorsport division called BMW M. The M division built high-performance engines. Murray met with BMW executives. He explained his vision. They were intrigued. BMW offered to build a bespoke engine for the McLaren F1. It would be a 6.1-liter V12 based on the BMW M70 engine. It would have double overhead cams, 4 valves for each cylinder, and variable valve timing. It would produce 627 horsepower. It would weigh just 266 kilograms. It would be perfect. Murray accepted. BMW would build the engine. It would be called the S70/2. It would become one of the greatest engines in automotive history. The S70/2 was a masterpiece. It was a 60-degree V12 with aluminum block and heads. It had individual throttle bodies for each cylinder. It had a dry sump lubrication system. It revved to 7,500 RPM. It produced 627 horsepower at 7,400 RPM and 479 pound-feet of torque at 5,600 RPM. The engine was mounted behind the driver longitudinally with the transmission bolted directly to it. The transmission was a 6-speed manual designed by Weissman. It had a gated shifter with exposed linkage. It was precise, mechanical, and satisfying. The engine bay was lined with gold. Gold is an excellent thermal reflector. It kept the heat in the engine bay and out of the cabin. The gold lining became a signature of the F1. The S70/2 was not just powerful, it was characterful. It had a distinctive sound, a deep roar that built to a scream. It was smooth, responsive, and addictive. It was the heart of the F1. Part 5. The Engineering Marvel. The McLaren F1 was an engineering marvel. Every component was designed for performance. There was no compromise, there was no excess, there was only the pursuit of perfection. The chassis was a carbon fiber monocoque. It was built by Hercules Aerospace in the United States. It weighed just 100 kilograms. It was incredibly strong and stiff. The front and rear subframes were aluminum, bolted to the monocoque. The suspension was double wishbones all around, with pushrod-actuated coil springs and dampers. The pushrod system allowed the dampers to be mounted horizontally, saving space and reducing unsprung weight. The suspension was adjustable for ride height and damping. The brakes were ventilated steel discs, 13 inches at the front and 12 inches at the rear. They were gripped by 4 piston calipers. The brakes were powerful and fade-resistant. The F1 could stop from 100 miles per hour in just 2.5 seconds. The wheels were 17 inches, with 2 35/45 tires at the front and 3 15/35 tires at the rear. The tires were developed specifically for the F1 by Goodyear. They were designed to handle the car's speed and weight. The interior was minimalist but functional. The seats were leather, fixed in place. The pedals were adjustable to accommodate drivers of different sizes. The steering wheel was leather-wrapped with no buttons or controls. The gauges were analog with a speedometer that went to 240 miles per hour. The F1 had no power steering, no anti-lock brakes, no traction control, no stability control. It had no air conditioning, no radio, no navigation. It had nothing that would add weight or complexity. It was pure.
The F1 weighed just 1,140 kilograms. That is 2,533 pounds. For comparison, a modern Ferrari SF90 weighs 1,570 kilograms. The F1 was 430 kilograms lighter. That is the difference between the F1 and a small passenger car. The power-to-weight ratio was 550 horsepower per ton. That was extraordinary in 1992. It is still impressive today.
Part 6. The Golden Engine Bay. The BMW S70/2 engine is a legend. Let us look at it in detail. The S70/2 was a 6.1-liter V12. The bore was 86 millimeters. The stroke was 87 millimeters. The compression ratio was 11.0 to 1. The engine produced 627 horsepower at 7,400 RPM and 479 pound-feet of torque at 5,600 RPM. The engine had double overhead camshafts, 4 valves per cylinder, and variable valve timing. The valve timing was continuously variable, adjusting to optimize performance at all engine speeds. The engine had individual throttle bodies for each cylinder. This improved throttle response and allowed each cylinder to breathe independently. The intake manifold was made of carbon fiber to save weight. The engine had a dry sump lubrication system. This allowed the engine to sit lower in the chassis, lowering the center of gravity. It also prevented oil starvation during high-speed cornering. The engine was built by BMW M, the motorsport division. Each engine was hand-assembled by a single technician. The technician's name was stamped on the engine. It was a work of art. The engine bay was lined with gold. Gold is an excellent reflector of heat. It kept the heat generated by the engine away from the carbon fiber body and the cabin. The gold lining was not just functional, it was beautiful. It became a signature of the F1. The sound of the S70/2 is unforgettable. At idle, it rumbles. At mid-range, it roars. At full throttle, it screams. The intake noise is as loud as the exhaust. The engine fills the cabin with sound. It is intoxicating. The S70/2 is one of the greatest engines ever built. It is powerful, responsive, reliable, and characterful. It is the heart of the McLaren F1. Part 7. The Central Driving Position. The central driving position is the most distinctive feature of the McLaren F1. Gordon Murray believed that the driver should be in the center of the car for the best visibility, balance, and control. The driver sits in the middle with a passenger on each side, slightly set back. The driver's seat is fixed. The pedals are adjustable. The steering wheel is directly in front of the driver. The view through the windshield is unobstructed. The driver can see the road perfectly. The central driving position has several advantages. First, visibility. The driver can see the road ahead without the A-pillar blocking the view. The driver can see the corners of the car, making it easier to place the car on the road. Second, balance. The driver is located near the center of gravity of the car. This improves the driver's sense of the car's movements. The driver can feel the car rotate, pitch, and dive. Third, control. The driver is perfectly aligned with the car's axis. The steering inputs are intuitive. The driver feels connected to the car in a way that is impossible in a conventional layout. The central driving position also has disadvantages. Getting in and out is difficult. The driver has to step over a side sill and slide into the center. The passengers have to enter first. The driver is last. It is awkward, but it is worth it. Once the driver is seated, the experience is transformative. The road unfolds directly in front of you. The car responds to your inputs. You are not a passenger. You are the pilot. You are in control. The central driving position is the essence of the McLaren F1. It is what makes the F1 unique. It is what makes the F1
perfect.
Part 8. The Design Masterpiece. The McLaren F1 was designed by Peter Stevens, a British designer who had worked on the Lotus Elan and the Jaguar XJR-15. Stevens was given a simple brief: make it beautiful, make it functional, make it fast. The design of the F1 is clean, smooth, and timeless. There are no sharp edges, no unnecessary creases, no fake vents. Every line has a purpose. Every curve is functional. The front of the car is low and wide. The headlights are small, set into the body. The grille is minimal. The bumper is integrated. The front splitter is functional, generating downforce. The side of the car is defined by a sharp crease that runs from the front wheel arch to the rear air intake. The doors cut into the roofline, creating a distinctive silhouette. The side air intakes are large, feeding air to the engine. The rear fenders are muscular, bulging over the wide tires. The rear of the car is dramatic. The roofline slopes down to a rear window that is split into 3 sections. Below the window, the engine is visible through a glass cover. The taillights are small, round, set into a black panel. The exhaust pipes are centered just above the rear diffuser. The design of the F1 is timeless. It does not look like a car from the 1990s. It looks like a car from the future. It is as beautiful today as it was when it was unveiled. The F1 was also aerodynamically efficient. The drag coefficient was 0.32, which was excellent for a car with no rear wing. The car generated downforce without adding drag. The front splitter and rear diffuser worked together to keep the car planted at high speeds. The design of the F1 is a masterpiece. It is the work of a genius. Part 9. The Speed Record. The McLaren F1 was built to be the fastest production car in the world. Gordon Murray wanted the top speed to exceed 350 kilometers per hour. He wanted the record. In 1992, McLaren took a pre-production F1 to the Nardo test track in Italy. The track was a high-speed oval, 12.5 kilometers in circumference. The F1 was driven by Jonathan Palmer, a former Formula One driver. The car reached 354 kilometers per hour. That is 220 miles per hour. The record was set. But McLaren was not satisfied. They believed the F1 could go faster. They took the car to the Volkswagen test track at Air-Alessien in Germany. The track had a 20-kilometer straight, perfect for top speed runs. The car was driven by Andy Wallace, a British racing driver. Wallace pushed the car to its limit. The F1 reached 386 kilometers per hour. That is 240 miles per hour. It was the fastest production car in the world. The record stood for over a decade. The McLaren F1 held the title of world's fastest production car from 1992 to 2005, when the Bugatti Veyron surpassed it. But the Veyron had turbochargers and all-wheel drive. The F1 was naturally aspirated and rear-wheel drive. The F1's record is still the record for naturally aspirated production cars. The top speed run was not just about power, it was about stability. At 240 miles per hour, the F1 was planted, stable, and controllable. The aerodynamics worked, the suspension worked, the tires worked. The F1 was designed for speed, and it delivered.
Part 10. The Racing Legacy.
The McLaren F1 was not designed for racing. It was designed as a road car. But Gordon Murray knew that racing would prove the car's capabilities. He built a racing version, the McLaren F1 GTR. The GTR was modified for competition. The engine was restricted to 600 horsepower. The body was modified with a large rear wing and front splitter. The interior was stripped. The weight was reduced. In 1995, the F1 GTR entered the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It was the first year of competition. The field included purpose-built prototypes from Porsche, Ferrari, and Courage. The F1 GTR was a Grand Tourer, not a prototype. It was not supposed to win. But the F1 GTR did win. The car, driven by Yannick Dalmas, Masanori Secchia, and JJ Leto, finished first overall. It was the first time a production-based car had won Le Mans since 1978. It was the first time a car had won Le Mans in its first year of competition. It was a miracle. The victory at Le Mans cemented the F1's legacy. It proved that the F1 was not just a fast road car, it was a genuine race car. It was the best of both worlds. The F1 GTR continued to race. It won the BPR Global GT Series in 1995 and 1996. It won the FIA GT Championship in 1997. It was dominant. Today, the F1 GTR is one of the most collectible racing cars in the world. Values exceed $10 million. The car that won Le Mans sold for $20 million in 2019. The F1 is not about the numbers. It is about the experience of pure speed. Part 11. The Owners and Collectors. The F1 was expensive. The original price was $800,000. That is about $1.5 million today. Only 106 F1s were built, including prototypes, road cars, and race cars. Only 64 road cars were built. Each one is unique. Each one is priceless. The list of F1 owners is a who's who of wealth and passion. Rowan Atkinson, the actor who played Mr. Bean, owned an F1. He crashed it twice. He had it repaired both times. He sold it in 2015 for $12 million. Jay Leno, the comedian and car collector, owns an F1. He drives it regularly. He says it is the best car he has ever driven. He says it is perfect. Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, owned an F1. He sold it to buy a McLaren F1 GTR. He regrets the sale. Ralph Lauren, the fashion designer, owns an F1. His F1 is silver, one of only a few. It is kept in his private collection, alongside his Ferrari 250 GTO. The Sultan of Brunei owns several F1s. He has a collection of rare and unique cars. His F1s are rarely seen. The F1 has appreciated significantly. In 2015, an F1 sold for $12 million. In 2017, another sold for $15 million. In 2019, the Le Mans winning F1 GTR sold for $20 million. In 2021, an F1 sold for $20.5 million. The values continue to rise. Why are F1s so valuable? The same reasons as the Ferrari 250 GTO: rarity, beauty, history. The F1 is the perfect hypercar. It is the car that every collector wants. It is the perfect hypercar. Part 12. The Eternal Value. The McLaren F1 is the perfect hypercar. It is the car that Gordon Murray dreamed of. It is the car that the engineers built. It is the car that won Le Mans. It is the car that holds the speed record. It is the car that collectors covet. Why is the F1 perfect? Because it has no compromises. It has no excess weight. It has no unnecessary technology. It has no electronic driver aids. It is pure. It is raw. It is real. The F1 is also perfect because it is usable. You can drive it to the track, race it, and drive it home. You can take it on a road trip with 2 passengers and luggage. You can drive it every day. It is comfortable, reliable, and practical. The F1 is also perfect because it is beautiful. The design is timeless. The proportions are perfect. The details are exquisite. The F1 is also perfect because it is rare. Only 64 road cars were built. Each one is unique. Each one is a piece of history. The F1 is also perfect because it is fast. It was the fastest production car in the world for a decade. It is still the fastest naturally aspirated production car ever built. The F1 is also perfect because it is a race winner. It won Le Mans in its first year of competition. It dominated GT racing. It proved that a road car could be a race car. The McLaren F1 is not just a car. It is the perfect hypercar. It is the car that every other hypercar aspires to be. It is the benchmark. It is the legend. It is the dream. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of the McLaren F1, from the mind of Gordon Murray to the racetracks of Le Mans, from the gold-lined engine bay to the auction houses of Monterey, from the central driving position to the speed record at Air Elysian. This is the story of the perfect hypercar. I hope you have learned something. I hope you have been moved. I hope you understand why the McLaren F1 is not just a car, it is the perfect hypercar, and it will always be the benchmark. I am Royal Luxury Cars. Thank you for listening. Drive safely, drive passionately, and never stop asking what a car can be. This has been the McLaren F1, the perfect hypercar.